Tonight, I ask you to lay aside the burden of striving. Put down the tools of effort. Forget the weary climb of trying to make it happen. For the kingdom of heaven is not taken by force. It is received in stillness. Relax, be still, and know I am God. It is in this quiet stillness, in the sacred calm of consciousness, that the true work is done. When the mind is quiet, the door to the subconscious swings open. The Father's house has many mansions, and every mansion, every state is available to the one who dares to rest in the knowing that all things already are. You need not run after your desires. You need only to assume the feeling that they are already yours. To relax is to trust. To relax is to believe. For belief is not some shouting of affirmations into the night. Belief is rest. Belief is peace. It is the quiet conviction that what I feel within me now shall externalize in due season. I tell you, your imagination is the Christ within you. It is the only Savior. And imagination creates reality. Not willpower, not effort, not desperate prayers begging the sky. All things exist eternally, and your assumption brings them into visibility. Take a desire now, any desire, a healed body, a harmonious relationship, financial abundance. Take it not as something to wish for, but something to assume. If it were true, how would you feel? Not tomorrow, now. Dwell in that feeling, rest in that state, for that state has creative power. All you need do is remain there, unmoved by appearances. Many ask, how long must I wait? And I say to them, as the scriptures say, already you are clean through the word I have spoken unto you. The moment you accept the wish fulfilled and feel its reality, your world begins to reshape. Delay is only the refusal to believe. You do not attract what you want. You attract what you are conscious of being. And when you are relaxed in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, the universe, like a faithful servant, bends in your favor. You do not make it happen. You allow it to happen. So rest, my friends, be still, and know that what you have imagined and accepted as true shall not return unto you void, but shall accomplish that which you please. Dwell in the end. Persist in that restful knowing. For imagination, when felt as real, is the secret of all creation. Before any change can occur in your outer world, there must first be a change in your inner state. But the gate to that inner world is not flung open by force. It opens in stillness. You do not batter down the doors of the subconscious with loud words or frantic effort. The subconscious receives its impressions when the conscious mind is quiet, passive, and most importantly, at rest. The creative act begins in the silence of man. In that sacred silence where the senses are shut down and man no longer reacts to appearances, he becomes receptive. Just as the earth opens to receive the seed when it lies undisturbed beneath the moonlight, so too does the subconscious receive the impression of your assumption when your mind is still. Relaxation is not laziness. It is the highest form of spiritual receptivity. When you relax your body and quiet your thoughts, you are returning to the state in which all things are possible. In the stillness of relaxation, the line between desire and fulfillment disappears. You no longer seek to attain. You begin to feel that it already is. The ancients understood this when they said, "Be still and know that I am God." That is not a command to be idle. It is a call to enter the only state in which true knowing can occur. You do not know something because your eyes have seen it. You know it because your being has accepted it. And that acceptance always happens in stillness. Do not believe that the mind must always be doing. The mind, like a turbulent sea, reflects nothing when disturbed. But let the waters still, and you shall see the image clearly. So too with the creative power within you. It begins to reflect your desire when you have ceased to fight for it and have allowed it to settle into your consciousness as fact. Every night just before sleep, you are gifted the golden doorway into the subconscious. In that twilight state, when you are neither fully awake nor yet asleep, your conscious mind becomes passive and the subconscious becomes suggestible. This is the most fertile ground for planting the seeds of your desire. And to enter this state, you must relax fully and deeply. Let the body sink as though it were weightless. Let the breath become soft, shallow, gentle. Let every limb grow loose and let the mind uncoil its worries. Do not strain to imagine. Simply accept. Let the scene form naturally and feel your desire as if it were already accomplished. This is the true Sabbath, the real rest. When man ceases from his labors and enters into the finished work, it is not what you want that manifests, it is what you accept as true. But no acceptance can occur when the conscious mind is full of tension, anxiety, or effort. The subconscious does not respond to force. It responds to feeling. And the feeling that impresses it most deeply is the feeling of naturalness, the feeling of ease. Suppose you desire a change in your world. Do not rush to act. Do not attempt to will the change into existence. Instead, go within. Find a quiet space, not just outside, but within your soul. And in that still space, imagine, not with strain, but with surrender, not with loud declarations, but with silent conviction. Let the imagined scene unfold as though it were memory, not fantasy. The key is relaxation, not just of the body, but of the mind. A mind that trusts does not need to struggle. A mind that believes does not question how. When you are relaxed, you have already said yes to your desire. You have already entered the state where creation is finished. And it is from that state that all things flow. Outward action becomes inspired, not forced. Circumstances begin to arrange themselves with an elegance that could never be planned. You begin to meet the right people, enter the right situations, and say the right words, all without conscious effort. Why? Because you have already impressed the subconscious with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And that impression, once received, sets in motion the law that cannot fail. Relax then, not because the world tells you to slow down, but because your power lies in stillness. And it is only in that stillness that you will come to know all things are possible, and all things are now. The world you behold with your senses is but the shadow of your inner activity. Nothing appears on the screen of space that did not first arise in the unseen realms of consciousness. And the great secret, hidden in plain sight, is that imagination is not a fanciful daydream, not idle musing. It is the very womb of creation. All that you see was once imagined. All that you experience is but the outpicturing of your inner assumption. The outer follows the inner, for the inner is the cause, and the outer is the effect. Creation does not begin with action. It begins with an image. The image held persistently in the mind, felt deeply in the heart, and accepted as reality by the soul, becomes the mold through which life flows. You may think things happen to you, but in truth, they happen through you. What you accept as real in imagination becomes real in the world. Imagination is the workshop of God. It is the place where form is shaped from the formless, where the invisible becomes visible. Yet imagination alone does not create a thought, a picture, a vision. These alone are powerless unless they are infused with feeling. It is not what you imagine that moves mountains. It is what you feel to be true about what you imagine. To imagine without feeling is to sketch without substance. But to feel your imagined scene as real, to dwell in it, to taste it, to live in its atmosphere with your inner senses, this is the secret of all manifestation. When you feel the reality of the unseen, you call it into being. When you walk by inner sight, The outer world conforms. You must learn the art of assuming the wish fulfilled, not as a hope, not as a possibility, but as a present fact. To feel that what you desire is already yours is not self-deception. It is the highest form of faith. You are not pretending in the sense of fiction. You are entering the state where truth begins. What is true of you inwardly will soon become true of you outwardly. All things exist in the eternal now. The future is not something that comes toward you. It is something you enter, and you enter it through the portal of imagination. Suppose you desire health, love, wealth, or peace. Do not wait for conditions to give you permission. Go within. Close the eyes to the outer world and open them inwardly. Construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of your desire. Place yourself within that scene and feel it to be real. Hear the sounds, see the details, breathe the air of that new reality. Do not strain, do not wonder how it will come to pass. That is not your concern. Your only responsibility is to inhabit the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Once you do, the laws of the universe, which are impersonal and unerring, begin to orchestrate your world to match your inner conviction. Imagination must be felt to be effective. It must become so natural, so lived in, that you forget you are imagining. The moment it feels ordinary, it is ready to outpicture. The extraordinary becomes reality only when it becomes emotionally familiar. You must feel rich to become rich. You must feel loved to be loved. You must feel free to be free. You are not held back by the world. You are held back only by your unwillingness to revise the contents of your imagination. Change your inner conversations, your assumptions, your inner reactions, and your world must follow. It has no choice, for the world is your mirror, and it reflects not what you want, but what you are aware of being. There is no power outside of your consciousness, no fate, no luck, no external deity ruling over you. The only law is imagination, felt as fact. When you accept the reality of your desire inwardly, the outer must conform. The law cannot be broken. As within, so without. Train yourself, then, to live more in your imagination than in your senses. What the senses report may seem real, but it is merely the echo of a former belief. If you do not like what you see, do not try to change the shadow. Change the light that casts it. The light is your awareness, your feeling, your assumption. The world responds not to effort, but to the feeling behind the image. When the feeling of your imagined state becomes your dwelling place, it is only a matter of time before you meet it in the flesh. You do not need to force it. You need only to remain faithful to the vision that lives within you. Feel it as real. Live in it mentally. Walk in it inwardly. And the day will come when the dream you dare to feel will rise before you, clothed in facts, and the world will call it real. But you will know it was imagination that gave it life. Desire alone has no creative power. Wanting something does not bring it into being. Many people spend their entire lives wanting, yearning, hoping, and yet they remain where they are. Why? Because the law of life does not respond to what you want. It responds only to what you assume to be true. You are not drawing into your world the things you long for. You are magnetizing into form the states you inwardly accept as reality. What you assume, you become. What you accept as true within yourself, you will experience without. This is the great secret hidden beneath all sacred texts. According to your faith, be it unto you, not according to your effort, not according to your need, not according to your passion, but according to what you inwardly consent to as real. Your world is forever reflecting the inner arrangement of your consciousness. You do not experience what you plead for in prayer, but what you inwardly believe and expect. Assumption is faith in action. It is the quiet knowing that the unseen is more real than the seen, that the invisible state accepted within will harden into fact. The moment you dare to believe it is done, it begins to move. It is not enough to wish. A wish is powerless unless it is clothed in feeling and sustained by assumption. To assume a thing is to enter into the awareness of already being or having it. You do not wait for evidence. You do not look for signs. You turn inward. You feel the reality of your desire fulfilled, and you live from that feeling regardless of appearances. Suppose you desire to be wealthy. To continue seeing yourself as poor while wishing to be rich is to keep yourself bound to poverty. The outer world will never contradict the inner state you occupy. You must assume wealth, not just in thought, but in feeling. How would it feel to be the person you wish to be? That feeling must become your dwelling place. You must think from it, speak from it, and act as though it were already true. That is the secret of assumption. The law does not care whether the assumption is good or bad, noble or base. It simply brings forth what is impressed upon it. The subconscious accepts as true whatever the conscious mind consistently assumes. When you assume failure, even while desiring success, you produce failure. When you assume sickness, even while praying for health, you call forth illness. The assumption is what matters, not the surface wish. You must begin to see yourself differently, not as the person you have been, not as the person the world tells you that you are, but as the person you desire to be. This inner shift is the great transformation. The moment you assume the new identity, you alter the structure of your consciousness. And because consciousness is the only reality, your world must bend to mirror it. This only shift is the only reality that you'll act on, and this only way to bend the reality. Do not confuse assumption with effort or pretense. It is not about forcing yourself to believe something against your will. It is about gently persuading yourself into a new state. It is about relaxing into the feeling of the fulfilled desire and letting that feeling become your natural tone. You do not strain to become what you already are in imagination. You simply accept it and remain faithful to it. Everything that has ever come into your life has done so because of a prior assumption, most often unconscious. If you examine your daily thoughts, your inner talk, your reactions, you will find the assumptions that are running your life. And the wonderful truth is that you can change them. You can assume differently. You can rise into a new state at any moment. And that new state, if persisted in, will express itself in your world. This is not about pretending or fooling yourself. It is about discovering the true creative power of your consciousness. The moment you dare to assume that you are already the person you wish to be, something shifts. A door opens. The world, though it may not change instantly, begins to reshape itself around your new self-concept. Begin now. Close your eyes and ask yourself, what would I be like if it were true? Let that question guide your inner movement. Feel it. Live from it. Walk through your day with that assumption, silently operating beneath your words and actions. And as you remain loyal to it, the world will respond with scenes that match your inner conviction. You are always becoming what you assume to be true. Therefore, choose your assumptions wisely. Assume the best, not as a vague hope, but as a present reality, and you will see that life is not reacting to your desires. It is reflecting your assumptions. To struggle is to confess separation. To labor is to admit that what you desire is distant, perhaps even out of reach. But the truth is this: all things are already yours, not will be, are. The moment you try to force something into being, you declare that it does not yet exist, and by that declaration you ensure its delay. Effort and striving are signals of disbelief. They say to the subconscious mind, it is not yet mine, and so it is not. But when you assume a thing to be real and rest in that assumption with quiet confidence, you are in alignment with the only power that creates. You have taken your place in the state of fulfillment, and from that place, all things flow naturally and without struggle. Creation is not the result of pressure. It is not born of tension. It emerges from inner stillness. Just as a seed does not shout its way into becoming a tree, your desire does not need to be pushed into form. It needs to be assumed. And the state must be lived in inwardly as naturally as breathing. To dwell in inner peace is to say, it is done. It is to know that the invisible is as real as the visible and often more powerful. When the heart is quiet and belief is settled, manifestation becomes effortless. Life becomes an echo of your inner being, not a battlefield of trying to make things happen. The world teaches that only through relentless action do you gain success. But action without assumption is motion without direction. It is a wandering. The one who understands the law does not rush. He acts, yes, but only as a servant to the state he has already entered within. His actions arise from knowing, not from fear. They are gentle, inspired, and sure. The one who is still, who is unmoved by appearances, holds the creative advantage. He may appear passive to the world, but he is creating at the deepest level. He is occupying the end. He is living in the answered prayer. And because he is not seeking, he draws all things to himself. For what you rest in, you attract. What you chase, you resist. To attract is not to reach outward, but to magnetize inwardly. You attract what matches your vibration, and your vibration is set by your feeling, not your wishing. When you feel desperate, uncertain, or impatient, you send out a signal of lack, and lack returns. When you feel calm, assured, and content in the unseen reality of your desire, it begins to clothe itself in form. This is why it is written, to him who has, more shall be given. The one who has within, who assumes the possession, who feels rich before he sees riches, who feels love before the embrace, who feels healthy while the body still appears weak, he is the one who receives, not because he forced the outer to change, but because he become aligned with the inner state that produces the change. There is no virtue in effort when that effort is born of fear. There is no power in activity if that activity is rooted in doubt. What bears fruit is faith, the kind of faith that rests, that smiles at delay, that trusts the unseen with such intensity that it feels no need to hurry or to convince. And many believe that to imagine quietly is to do nothing, but in truth, it is the highest form of doing. For to assume and rest in that assumption is to plant the seed. And every seed bears fruit after its kind. You may not see the result immediately. You may walk through days or weeks where nothing seems to change, but the change is already underway. For the seed has been accepted by the soil of your subconscious. It is only when you remain in peace, when you refuse to be disturbed by delay, when you decline the invitation to worry, that the promise is fulfilled. Your assumption, held without strain, is the divine blueprint. It does not need your effort to unfold. It needs only your faithfulness. Be still then and know. The moment you assume a thing to be true and persist in that inner knowing, your world will reorganize itself around that truth. Not because you willed it so, but because the law of being responds not to effort, but to feeling, not to force, but to faith, not to noise, but to silence. It is in the quiet conviction of I am, held without tension, that the miracle begins. And from that sacred stillness, all things are drawn. Creation is finished. All that ever was, and all that ever will be already exists within the eternal now. The entire structure of reality, every possible version of your life, is already contained in the field of infinite consciousness. You are not creating something from nothing. You are selecting that which already is. And the method of selection is feeling. To live from the end is to anchor yourself in the state where your desire is already fulfilled. It is to turn your back on appearances and to walk boldly in the atmosphere of your answered prayer. When you live from the end, you no longer seek, you express. You no longer ask, when will it come? You move and think and feel as though it has already arrived. That is the secret of manifestation. Everything in life proceeds from a state. In every state exists now. There is no future fulfillment to strive for, only present positions to occupy. You are not moving through time, you are moving through states. And the state you inhabit determines the world you encounter. If you wish to experience something new, you must first assume a new identity, not externally, but within. For nothing changes outwardly. You must go to the end and dwell there, not as a visitor, but as a resident, not as a mere observer, but as one who knows the house to be his own. If you desire wealth, live from the end of wealth, not from the desire to be wealthy. If you desire love, live from the end of being loved, not from the longing for affection. The moment you mentally occupy the fulfilled state and feel its naturalness, you have shifted the cause. And when the cause is changed, the effect must follow. This is not mental trickery. It is not pretending in the sense of denial. It is spiritual law. Whatsoever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye have received it, and ye shall. Notice the instruction. Believe you have received, not will receive. That is the essence of living from the end. To believe that the prayer is already answered. To feel now what you would feel then. To so fully accept your desire as reality that it begins to shape your thoughts, decisions, and demeanor. You cannot occupy two states at once. You must leave the old behind and fully immerse yourself in the new. To the degree that you mentally remain in the old state of lack, fear, or separation, the new state cannot take root. You must sever ties with what you no longer wish to experience, not by fighting it, but by forgetting it. And you forget by replacing. You do not cast out darkness by wrestling with it. You turn on the light. Imagine the scene that would be true if your desire were already a fact. Enter that scene and feel it real. Lose yourself in it. Make it vivid. Use your inner senses. Hear the voices, touch the textures, smell the air. Do not look at the scene as though it were happening to someone else. Look out from it as though you were already there. The difference is everything. Your inner conversations must also align with this new state. Speak to yourself as you would if your dream were your current reality. If you were already successful, what would your thoughts sound like? If your relationship were healed, how would you speak to yourself in moments of quiet? The words you whisper in the silence determine the outer echoes. They are not idle. They are seeds. To live from the end is to walk in alignment with the already answered prayer. It is to rest in the truth that what you desire is not becoming, it is. You need not convince the world to change. You only need to remain faithful to the new state within. The outer world is compelled to mirror the inner assumption. The law cannot be broken. Persist, even when the senses report otherwise. Do not waver when appearances seem unchanged. Faith is loyalty to the unseen reality. The state you consistently feel yourself to be will crystallize into form. Your job is not to bring it about. Your job is to remain in the end. To rehearse the joy, the peace, the gratitude, the ease that would naturally accompany the fulfilled desire. From that place, action becomes effortless. Doors open, people appear, circumstances shift,